Hello and welcome to Angular Air. My name is Jeff Welpley. I'm your host for today, and we have a special guest panelist, Dimitri, who's here today.
Hi guys.
Today we're going to be talking about Angular Meteor, and there's no one better to talk about this subject than the man who created the Angular Meteor library, Yuri Goldstein.
Hello, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yuri, I think a lot of people have seen your talks before, but for people that may not be familiar with you, you want to give an introduction to yourself and a little bit about your background?
My name is Uri, and I'm a JavaScript developer. I'm a core developer at Meteor. And before I was a core developer at Meteor, I developed the Angular Meteor library, which helps you use both the Angular frameworks and the Meteor platform together. And also helps you, there's another library called Angular 2.0 Meteor that helps you to work with Angular 2.0 and Meteor together. And I'm doing that work plus other work on the Meteor platform.
So it may be helpful to just give a quick summary of, what is Meteor, and then how does Angular fit into the picture?
It's a good question. So Meteor is a JavaScript platform. So everything in Meteor is built on top of JavaScript. And JavaScript today, there's two major topics when you talk about Meteor. One is platform and one is JavaScript. So the platform first means that it's not just a framework that's focused specifically on the client side or the server side. It's a platform that lets you write web and mobile applications across everything and takes care of everything you did in the process, which means database and server side and client side and build tools and packaging systems and everything, and Cordova integration, for example. So everything you need to do, everything you need to build your applications. Now, of course, all of this platform is built out of many components. Database is one of them. There's many packages and components in the server side, and also there's a view layer. And Meteor has can work with few different view layers. One of them is Blaze, which is the first and original view layer that they wrote. But then you can also work with Angular as your view layer, or React as your view layer. So yeah, you can actually. It means that you'll have, if you work with Angular Meteor, you actually have a complete platform with everything you need, and Angular as your view layer, whether you write a web app or even a mobile app with Angular and Ionic, for example.
So why would you want to use Angular with Meteor? Because, like you said, you do have the built-in Blaze as a templating library as default within Meteor. Why would you want to use Angular instead?
So first of all, it's your own preference. Blaze has been there as a first choice, but for me, I always liked Angular better for many reasons. There's a whole debate going on about who is better, which front-end framework is better, and it's a debate that I think lasts for many years. So we won't solve it here, but as an Angular developer, I wanted to use Meteor, and I've built a complete library to do that. Because Meteor has solved me so many problems. I had an Angular application, and then I wanted to have a full stack application. I wanted to have a server side. I wanted to have a mobile app from Cordova, and I wanted. And when you do that, you need a lot of stuff. First of all, you need a good mechanism to sync your client-side data with your server-side data, and to store your server-side data in the database, and then sync it across multiple clients. And with Meteor, you get it very simply, and also, if you want, you can get it real-time, which means that you can just bind your models to the cloud. If I saw people saying that sentence, and then they can sync instantly across all the clients. And also, you get a really interesting build process, because the build process is actually, if you want, then it's totally like you don't need to care about it, because in Meteor, when you use a package, the people who wrote the package wrote the build process for you. So let's say that you're working with Angular and you need, and you're working today with Gulp or Grunt or Webpack, and then you need something like ng annotate in Angular 1 or something like that, then if you're working with Meteor, you don't need to do any of that. You just need to add the Angular package, and I wrote that for you. So you can obviously change that if you need, but and you can control everything. But if you just want to start, you have everything you need, and the only thing you need to write is your business logic, and you can start super fast.
So yeah, I mean, it's cool that if you have a personal preference for Angular, being able to use that. But is there any particular feature that distinguishes it from Blaze in particular, or is it mostly the same as far as features go?
There's many. I think, first of all, with Angular, everything is more scoped, in my opinion. So it's very easy to create components, and it's very easy to use things like dependency injection, which this is something that I liked so much that I also brought it back to the server side. And those are features that Blaze doesn't give you. But I think the main thing that is the main advancements are actually in Angular 2.0. And I think in Meteor we understood that. We understood that Angular 2.0 and React are both very advanced view layers that have many advanced features, including like separation from the DOM, from your rendering engine to the DOM, and many other features. And the community behind them is so big that there's no reason to actually continue developing Blaze, where you can use Angular 2 or React, and it will give you everything you need. So right now, Blaze will still be supported for, I think, at least a year. But you can use Angular and React with the same simplicity as you use Blaze. So there's nothing special in Meteor that is focused on Blaze. You can do everything you want to do with Meteor with Blaze. You can do with Angular 2.0 and Angular 1 and React. So, yeah.
So, from what I have seen, Meteor is really easy to use in case of development. Whatever you do on your code, it's immediately, transparently reloads the page, and you like see what happens. You can write at the same time backend and UI in the same file. How it fits Angular 2 with hot reload, with all this stuff, and how it fits, like, all this concept of separation.
That's a good question. So actually, Angular 2.0 makes it work even much better than Angular 1 Meteor. Like, one thing is that with Angular 2.0, it's very easy to bind the data. Because the main reason is I don't need to mess around with scopes. And I don't need to sync them because I have Meteor takes care of bringing it. Meteor has a concept called the mini Mongo, which is basically a client-side cache that is synced across clients. Now, with Angular 2.0, I can tell Angular, please render this data type. And with the Angular Meteor package, Angular 2.0 Meteor package, I tell it how these data types behave and when it changes. And then it's super easy. It's very few lines of code for me as the Angular 2.0 Meteor developer. And the performance is amazing because I can tell Angular exactly when the components they use this Meteor data layer needs to be rendered. Yeah, so in terms of the data, it's much simpler. Like a lot of the work that I've done on Angular 1 Meteor, basically I don't need to take care of that anymore with Angular 2.0 Meteor. It's much simpler. And the other thing that is great about Angular 2.0 is that because the renderer is separated from the DOM, it's much easier for me to use to add server-side rendering, which is something that I haven't done because I haven't got to this yet. There's an open issue that I've opened and asked if someone wants to help me. I can definitely collaborate on that. But I'm sure I'll get to that like in a week or 2 or 3. Yeah, definitely you should join, because basically Meteor is a Node application, right? It's built on Node. So Angular Universal already uses I think has a solution for Express, and maybe Happy now I saw there's a solution. Taking that solution and using in Meteor, it's very easy. The only thing that Meteor adds is that you don't need to add something specific or to write any lines of code. The solution, as I imagine it, and I've done already something like that many times, so it's not like I'm just imagining it. It's something that will happen. Will be you will just do Meteor add Angular 2, and that's it. You will get server-side rendering out of the box. You will get the preloaded page much faster. You'll get also SEO links out of the box, which is something that any Meteor application can get from a package. So yeah, it basically means that as a developer, it's something that is maybe it's something that everyone probably wants, but it's a bit of a hassle to configure it. And with Meteor, it will be just like without the configuration, you'll just get it.
Yeah, so for server-side rendering, I think your Angular 1 solution used Phantom to help with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. In Angular 1, we actually did something. There's two things about like using Angular on the server. One is to have server-side rendering. That you have Phantom.js, but you can also use a package for a pre-render I/O, which also takes care of that for you, but as a service. But again, it's very easy to configure, and you just need to add a package. But with Angular 1 Meteor, we also done, it's not me, it's someone from the community who created something called Angular Server, which basically means it's a very cool thing. You can actually use, because Meteor is, isomorphic became this, I don't know, like this concept, but everyone keeps saying that. But basically, because with Meteor, it's very easy to use the same APIs on the server and on the client, then this guy wrote a few polyfills for Angular on this Angular 1 on the server, and that lets you use actually Angular services on the server side. So you can actually write like Angular service as you would do on the client, but it's on the server. Or with Meteor, you can actually have this service coming, like compiling both to the client and on the server, which maybe I'll talk a little bit later about latency compensation and why you would want that. But you can actually write your server-side code with Angular like you used to, and just call the service from the client like it was on your client, and that's it. And you can start services on the server without thinking about HTTP calls, RPC calls, like nothing like that. You just call it as a service, just like you would in any other like client-side service. So that's something that we did for Angular 1 and Meteor. And now with Angular 2.0 with Meteor, it's even easier. There's something that I've done for myself just for testing. I used like another application that I wrote. I used Angular's the dependency injection in Angular 2.0 on the server side without even using Angular, which is great. I think it's a great concept. And right now you have to import the Angular 2 library for that, but I think that after the beta release, they will separate it into a separate NPM package.
So I suppose data protocol, you use distributed data protocol is not mandatory, or you can some kind of feed this protocol inside of Angular to some kind of special module, or it's kind of pretty easy fit how to feed Angular to application with DDP protocol.
Yeah, so
it might be good to explain DDP as well, because I think people might be unfamiliar with that if they haven't worked with Meteor before.
Yeah. So first of all, in a higher level concept, I think that the problem that Meteor, what is Meteor in my opinion? It's two main things. One is a data layer. That I think today there's nothing like that that connects the client and the server in the easiest way possible. So the data layer between the client and the server is something that Meteor gives you that is amazing. And the second thing is the concept of a platform, which I said before, that gives you everything you need without thinking about it, which you can dig in and change everything, but out of the box you get everything. So on the data layer, there's a Meteor wrote something. It was in 2011. It's called the DDP protocol. It's basically an open source protocol that that sits on top of any other implementation you like. In Meteor, it's on top of WebSockets, and it's an open protocol for real-time updates. So you could have, let's say, everyone has REST clients, so you can just send a REST API to someone, and he will easily, without caring about what technology there is on the client side, on the other side, sorry, he could implement the REST API points and connect to your data source. DDP is the same thing, but for real time. So if I would want to connect to a data source, and I wouldn't want to care about the other side's technology, but I want to connect in real time. I want to get like a data list or a data object, and to understand when it happened, when it changed, and what exactly changed. This is the protocol, and for that protocol, you have implementations both for iOS and Android and .NET and Java and JavaScript. So you can actually connect. So there's libraries to connect Meteor server to, or Meteor clients to, any other data sources. But what's your question about DDP besides the general idea of it?
So the question was kind of pretty simple. So if just simplified stuff, DDP is like regular GET POST requests, any HTTP kind of interaction, plus basically socket.io. As far as I remember, it even can contain push notification integration for some kind of. So how easy it will be fit in Angular 2, for example, could be wrapped with reactive extensions and just observe the events from DDP, or even something simpler. How it will interact with Angular 2 application in general.
Yeah, so basically you don't need to do that because the Angular 2.0 Meteor library done that for you. And there's many, if someone would want to use that implementation out of Angular Meteor, I would love to take it out as a separate package or something. But basically, we wrote a wrapper on DDP that tells Angular 2 how to handle a Mongo cursor, which means that I'm telling Angular 2.0, first of all, how to render the cursor itself, which means how, so the user could just put the Mongo cursor, let's say, I don't know, let's call it a parties list. So you can just put the parties list inside an ng4, and Angular 2.0 will know exactly what to do with it. But also Angular 2.0 would know exactly when those parties are changing and where. So I'm telling Angular 2.0 I'm actually implementing the defer API, with the defer API, sorry, I keep mistaking how to pronounce that, and tells Angular exactly when to render and what. So Angular 2.0 is very powerful in that. You have like very interesting APIs to tell Angular exactly what's happening. Yeah.
Well, just in general, Meteor is about reactive programming, right? That's just like a lot of stuff that even on the show we've had a couple ones recently in various aspects talking about reactive programming, RxJS, and that type of thing. And it seems like Meteor kind of fits into that as part of, a way of doing it across your stack. So I'm wondering, how do you see it fitting in with like other similar, like just to take one as an example, like Firebase. So when you're talking about reactive backends, ones that kind of like, it doesn't have DDP, it doesn't have some of the features, it doesn't have like the build system for sure. But what other stuff would you compare and contrast with something like Firebase, just to take an example?
That's a good question. Maybe I'll go through Firebase, maybe through Relay also maybe, and a few other examples, and maybe that will help people understand better what Meteor is and how it fits into into those categories. So that's a good question. So we can start with Firebase because that was the first thing that I've done. That's what made me actually use Meteor and write Angular Meteor. Because Firebase gives you basically that opportunity to get your data from the client side and sync it in real time with the rest of your clients. The thing is that Firebase is a service, so you call a service and you don't really have a server side. So I needed to build like I don't know, very complex, but a real app, a real consumer-facing app, and I needed to do more than just sync those data layers. And Meteor basically has done what Firebase is doing. It gives you the ability to sync your client-side cache like Firebase with all of your clients, but it's open source. So, and it's based on Node. So you can actually write a full server. You can, if you don't want to have real-time updates or reactive updates, you don't need to. You can have REST calls with Meteor. You can have just RPC that's called regular methods. You have access to your database. But I think that the idea of the real time is very similar to Firebase, and I actually learned a lot from Firebase while building Angular Meteor. The Firebase guys did really amazing job in doing real-time updates between clients and very scalable solutions. It's very, very impressive. So this is Firebase. Now, people are asking sometimes how Meteor, what's the difference between Meteor and Redux? So, and this is just something over observables. So that's the thing. I mean, Redux and observable, those are two completely different things. But first of all, observables are just like a protocol of that you can use. So actually, you can implement Angular 2.0 Meteor as an observable. I can expose Meteor's data as an observable to Angular 2.0, just like let's say the Firebase 2.0 is doing. So Meteor will take care of everything to get into the client, and then from the client to the rendering to Angular, I can just expose an observable and tell Angular exactly what's happening. I just chose to use the current implementation because I think first of all, it abstracts the observable from the client. The client doesn't need to use any async pipe or things like that. And also, it gives Angular more information than the observable actually about what's changing. But it's just like my own implementation choice. And maybe I can do both, and then people could use whatever they want. But when people are talking about that, and also about Redux, they're talking about just the client-side data handling. But Meteor is taking care of your client-side and server-side data handling. So right now, Meteor is doing that with Mini-Mongo and DDP and Live Query, which those are the mechanisms and the open source packages that Meteor use to make your client-side cache just basically sync. You don't need to care about it. You just need to subscribe to a data source, and you don't need to care about anything else. It will be synced just like Firebase. But now Meteor is working on the next type of data layer, which actually be implemented on top of the GraphQL, and it's a big thing. Like Meteor we're gonna build it on top of GraphQL and Relay, and it's going to be open source, and you can use it with whatever app you're using. You don't need to use Meteor at all. You can have any other node backend or any other client, whether it's React or Angular, or you use Happy.js or whatever. But the hard thing of syncing client-side and server-side data, Meteor will take care for you. So that's a new thing, actually.
Just so I'm clear on what you're saying there, you're saying the Meteor core is moving towards being built on top of Relay, or is that just a side project that somebody else is doing?
No, it's something that actually the Meteor core developers are working on, and it's an open source. You can actually already look at them. There's a very interesting blog post on the Meteor blog, talking about we're calling it reactive GraphQL, which basically we're taking GraphQL and first of all wrapping it in GraphQL is amazing and Relay is amazing, and I can talk more about why. But it's not easy. Like if you actually try to write GraphQL and Relay clients and servers, then there's a lot of boilerplate code and there's a lot of things to do there. You get amazing things that actually Meteor also already gives you, but now Meteor will take those technologies and make it as easy as Meteor is right now, as the regular stack of Meteor is. So you can use it. The benefits of there's many benefits of GraphQL. One of them is you can use it on top of any data source. So you can use that reactive data syncing layer on top of Mongo, on top of your SQL database, or on top of just REST clients. So yeah, and you can just drop it in any of your applications.
So this is really interesting. Really, I actually didn't know about that at all. But it brings up one bigger question that I had, for later that I'll kind of bring up now, which is, and I really want to hear your opinions on this. I mean, I think Meteor is an amazing library. Like, I really admire kind of their kind of audacious goals, like right from the beginning. And it's interesting to me hearing some of the stuff you're saying and what I was kind of been keeping up on. That it seems like Meteor is going through a little bit of an identity crisis, in the sense that it used to be all about this all-in-one package, right? Like everything pre-built, everything part of built here, right? From Blaze to everything else. And it seems like over the years, and I think this is the right move that they made, but it's just kind of interesting that they've started to pull in these other parts. So you mentioned Blaze going to Angular and React. Now at the data layer, they're going to build stuff on top of Relay. There's probably other pieces as well. So I guess the two questions I have on that is like just in general, and maybe you mentioned this a little bit before, but what is sort of the future of like Meteor as an identity, and is it just essentially like the packaging of everything, just like the almost like an advanced CLI that like it sort of just manages your stack for you, but it's all still the little pieces, as opposed to the Meteor specific pieces like it used to be? Yeah, what are your kind of thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I think yeah, I even wish we would start with that question. So for many years, people well, the basic concept of Meteor is making applications, mobile and web applications, as simple as possible as they should have been. So, and that brings on a lot of things, because there's many things today when you want to write a mobile or a web application, there's a lot of things to do. And in my personal opinion, that's why I liked so much about Meteor, and I think that's also one of this is a concept that I also liked about Angular. This is one of the things that I think in philosophies, both Angular and Meteor are really similar, where you need to simplify the web application and mobile application process, the development process. Now, if you want to write today a platform that takes care of all of those, you have to write it in JavaScript. So, because JavaScript is running everywhere. All the rest of the languages, then maybe Java was supposed to be that, but it's not. But right now, JavaScript is the language that runs everywhere. Now, Meteor started in 2011. JavaScript was if you said something to build Meteor on top of something like Meteor on JavaScript back then, people would think that you're crazy. And maybe they still are. But what happened during those 5 years or 4 years is that the JavaScript community advanced so much. And so Meteor was basically like had to build a lot of stuff by its own in order to have this complete platform for you already in 2011 and 2012 and 2013, which is an amazing accomplishment. But in those years, the JavaScript community advanced a lot. So now, instead of building everything in Meteor, you can use amazing things that are happening in the community. So one thing is using NPM, for instance. So, and that's something that's happening right now. Right now, NPM is become much better than it used to be. Right? You can use NPM today on the client and on the server, and there's NPM 3 already, and with many additional features. So with Meteor 1.3, which is, I think, will be out in, let's say, I don't want to say dates, but let's say something like 2 weeks or so, then you can use just regular NPM packages. Any NPM packages that you want to use, you can just bring them on for NPM and use them. So this is something that that you couldn't do before, but now NPM became the standard. Before that, there was Bower and all kinds of other stuff. Now you can just rely on NPM. But still, also on that front, there's still many things that Meteor does have with Meteor Atmosphere and its packaging system and its the build process system that you still don't get with NPM, for example. So you have something like Version Solver, which takes care of that you will have just one version of a specific library on the client in an efficient way. So right now, the goal of Meteor is actually what we're doing. There was a very interesting meeting with Brad from Angular and Matt from Meteor. And the Angular team is working on a CLI and a build process with the Ember team. And Meteor is going to join that team. And we're going to just collaborate on building the next build tool that is going to be good for everyone. And the only players on the game that can bring those, the knowledge that Meteor has on the server side is Meteor. So I think it's going to be a huge thing, actually, that Angular and Ember and Meteor is working together on a CLI. And this is something that wouldn't have happened in 3 years ago, right? So Meteor is starting to bring more stuff from the community in and more stuff from Meteor out. We're also in a process of, now that we can bring stuff from NPM in, we're in a process of releasing a lot of our core functionalities out to NPM. We're taking more and more packages from Meteor core and exposing it to NPM, so you could use that in your existing applications, because those are good ideas and we want to spread them around. And the other thing that Meteor, I think one of the core things that you need when you write a full stack application is that it's the data layer. And again, the full stack data layer, not just like Redux or something where you handle which Redux is amazing, but it solves a very particular problem on the client side. I'm talking about the full stack data layer that syncs both, that will sync your clients and the server. And again, Meteor in that sense now is opening, first of all, our current core functionalities to NPM, but also improving our libraries and everything that we learned and exposing it from the start through NPM to any of the clients. So the new data layer that I told you is written on GraphQL and Relay is already out. I mean, it's just a start. We just started, but from the start, we started it open source and on the NPM, so you could use it inside Meteor or outside Meteor. So if it's something that's interesting to anyone, like it's open source and you can try it right now and help in the design process, and yeah.
That's really interesting. Really interesting. I think it's smart of Meteor to kind of go down this route for sure, and I think it solves like a really important problem that's getting even bigger right now, which is all the stuff that people have been talking about recently for JavaScript fatigue. That there are all these different tools coming in. The build process for like Angular 2 is crazy, and not just Angular 2. I mean, it's not just Angular related. All of the new technologies, and to have Meteor focus most of its efforts on that, I mean, would be unbelievable. I think that would benefit everybody. So I know that I'm definitely going to look back into a lot of the Meteor stuff that I kind of put to the wayside just based off of this.
Cool.
We are getting near the end of our time, but I do have a couple more questions. Dimitri has a couple more, and I do want to answer any questions from people listening live. So if you do have are listening live, make sure you tweet with the hashtag NGAIR, NGAIR, and we'll get to them at the end of the show. Dimitri, you had a couple of questions.
Yep, kind of. It's not really. This is the most interesting right now. How easily data layer could be replaced, or could you have several data layers for Meteor? Another question is, as for now, for Meteor, really sounds like your client and backend stuff actually like it's together, it's coupled. So how about to like support huge applications, any kind of API documentation, whatever. So I suppose there should be some kind of data access layer, or something like that. So how about it? How to support these huge applications with Meteor?
Two great questions. So the second, but just the first one was on. You got me excited on the second one because I liked answering this one. So the first one, the second one was about the duplication, and the first one was about what again?
The first one about how easy to like replace this data layer. How easy I could use not GraphQL, for example, but something else
like REST, for example.
Like in Nginx, for example, yeah, for Angular 2 developer, it will be like something native and pleasure to use. Thanks to Rob.
Yeah, so that's two great questions. So first of all, about the data layer, and like let's say adding, the most common question is how do I add REST endpoints to my Meteor app? So Meteor is still a Node app, and so you still have. And you just have wrappers. The packages are still separate packages. The separation is still there. The fact that it's not NPM doesn't mean it's not separated. It's exactly separated like any other thing. It's just like you would have a package JSON with a lot of NPM packages. So that's something that people like tends to forget sometimes because they get out of the box everything, but it's just like you have a packages file and you can replace everything. I actually created, a week ago, I created a REST server just with Meteor, and I removed almost all of the Meteor packages, and it was just a very thin layer of Meteor with the build process, and I used Swagger, which is, I don't know if you know, it's like something that generates API endpoints from YAML. It's an amazing framework. So I just created a REST server super easily, and I built it with TypeScript. So you can use any, and because there's now a TypeScript package that you can use with a TypeScript build process, so everything is possible. You can write whatever you want, and actually I think this is an amazing experience, like just trying out just a REST server, that maybe the first pick would be to use Express or Happy.js or something like that, but using a Meteor with Swagger and TypeScript was an amazing experience. So that's for changing the data layers and everything like that. And I guess it answers also a bit of your the second question. Mostly the second question about decoupling the client side from the server side. Again, it's just the only thing that connects them is the build process. So the packages are still separated. So actually, in the Angular Meteor website, angular-meteor.com, and also I think in blog post in Meteor, the Meteor forum, I wrote a blog post about how to write an Angular Ionic application, like a WhatsApp clone. You can probably search in Google like WhatsApp clone in Ionic in Meteor or something like that. And there's two versions. One is using Meteor as the complete platform, and the other is just writing using the Ionic CLI, writing a completely separated static client side in Ionic, and then connecting it to a Meteor server. That's it. So you can write your client-side code in a separate app, totally static, and connect to Meteor, and those are completely separated. The build process just helps you, but you don't have to use it. And yeah, it's just a build process. Think about it like Gulp or Webpack or both of them combined. Like, it's not something that bounds you. It's just something that helps you.
Gotcha. That's cool. It's great to hear about a lot of different developments. One last question on my side. Are you, this is just a minor thing, but I'm curious, and Dimitri brought it up in the chat, that TypeScript. What are your feelings on that? Is it something that you use and like, and what about the other people in your community?
Yeah. So first of all, TypeScript is amazing. I think TypeScript is amazing. First of all, in the Meteor, generally in Meteor, we believe in everything is in JavaScript. So we believe in taking the latest standard from the JavaScript standard. So Meteor out of the box comes with an ECMAScript package and a build process. So Meteor out of the box works with ES6, ES 2015 actually. So everything you have in ES 2015, and we have also Ben Newman, which he is a member of TC39. So we have everything in the standard working out of the box in JavaScript. So, and we really believe in JavaScript in ES 2015.
I personally use it, and I love it.
So I started using it because of Angular 2.0. But I think it's amazing. I think it's great. We have a great package for TypeScript now, which you can use both on the client and on the server. I'm using it on the server all the time. And I told you I also even combined it with Angular 2.0 dependency injection on the server. But yeah, I think TypeScript is really amazing. And when I'm thinking about the new data layer and GraphQL and combining types with GraphQL, I think would be amazing. Whether you're using Flow or TypeScript, I think would be amazing. I'm loving every second of using TypeScript.
So I suppose last question. And it's more about the bundling stuff. So if we speak about production-ready application, everybody should ask like, how I could minify this stuff, how I can like bundle it, and this a bit relates to, for example, System.js usage, or you have some kind of specific ECMAScript 6 support bundling.
This is a great question, and I can't believe I haven't mentioned it. So Meteor 1.3 comes with a built-in support for ES6 modules. ES 2015 modules inside the build system, which means that you can actually use ES6 modules everywhere in the system, and Meteor will take care of that for you. You can use it on the client and on the server. And the Meteor build process actually like implements that for you, and it lazy evaluate everything you need. And this is a huge thing for, I think, for Meteor and for the JavaScript community as a whole. One of them, I think the best talk on ES 2015 modules is Ben Newman's talk on import-export, and it's a must-see talk. And he is the one who implemented the ES6 module support in Meteor. And I'm already working with Meteor 1.3, and yeah, it's amazing, and I'm using it with TypeScript, and yeah, and I agree. Like if you have a large application, you should use ES6 modules, and to use imports and exports in your code. And there's the Meteor guide, which I haven't talked about it. I'll just mention it in really quickly. There's the Meteor guide, which is, I think it's guide.meteor.com. And it's a guide that shows you the best practices of how to write a full stack app. And I think Meteor is the only is in a position, one of the maybe the only ones that are in a position to write a guide like that, that will give you the best practices of how to use for your whole app, not just your client side or your server side or your database, everything. And the guide for Meteor 1.3 is amazing. Like it's using ES6 modules and yeah, and with testing, and it's amazing. Yeah.
One quick question, follow-up question on that. Is your build system using Webpack or JSPM underneath the scenes, or it actually they built their own module bundler in Meteor Core?
So in Meteor 1.3, it's actually very interesting. There's I think, I don't know if Ben mentioned it in his talk or not, but Meteor before 1.3, Meteor had a very interesting way of bundling your code. In Meteor 1.3, we wanted to stay backward compatible with that. So it's a Ben Newman's implementation in the build tool. It uses CommonJS because we wanted to support require, and we wanted people to be able to use the same code as they used to use on Node, and not just bringing like System.js or something that is more, well, like in few things of and the implementation that it does, and also Webpack in the implementation that they are doing, they're taking like many considerations that are limiting for like regular Node developers for their existing apps. So there's actually there's the talk of Ben Newman, but also there's a blog post of why in Meteor 1.3 we didn't use Webpack and use the current build process. It's a very interesting blog post. But going on forward from now, there's a very high chance that the new build process that will be a Meteor and Angular and Ember, like combined forces. Maybe React will be there, but I'm not sure. Will maybe like will be based on Webpack. I mean, I've looked at Webpack 2.0. It's very interesting. There's still a lot of stuff that Meteor is doing that Webpack doesn't do, but Webpack is still amazing. So probably, I hope there will be like a great collaboration there, and we'll get something that is for the whole community.
So is it fair to say that if I'm doing full stack JavaScript development, almost regardless of some of the pieces that I'm currently using or whatever else, that the sort of goal and direction that we've been talking about today, with Meteor, is that you should essentially look into using Meteor with what you're doing, because it sounds like, at the very least, if nothing else, obviously there's all the stuff with DDP and performance improvements there and other reactivity stuff that's going on, but if nothing else, it sounds like it can smooth over just the build process and the developer workflow.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that as I see it, then Meteor gave you the whole experience, and now, but it's not enough. Like Meteor has to keep being updated with the rest of the community, has to be one step forward, but it's because it gives you the complete platform, it will take you with it, right? So now you're using Meteor 1.2, and we want to encourage you to use imports and exports, because that's the best practice, and you should use that. But when you upgrade to Meteor 1.3, we're not forcing you to do that. So it's not like we're saying, this is a completely new framework, you're in a new world right now, and you have to upgrade your code. No, you can upgrade to Meteor 1.3, and then slowly update to the new standards. And later on, we will probably move to Webpack, maybe, or using stuff with Angular and Ember, and maybe new data layer. But it's like you mentioned the JavaScript fatigue. So with Meteor, you know that you're being taken care of, and it's a company that exists for a long time and will exist for a long time. And so you know you're being taken care of, and you know that you will also be updated to the new stuff, but you don't need to get worried about it. Like Meteor as a platform will lead you into it in an easy way and in a cheap way that won't make you like rewrite your whole code every time there's a new thing.
Awesome. Yuri, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Let's get to picks. Actually, a couple quick announcements right before we get to our picks. We have a few great shows coming up. The next 3 weeks are going to be focused on mobile development with Angular. First, March 1st on NativeScript, March 8th next week on Ionic 2, and then March 15th using React Native with Angular 2. So if you are doing any sort of mobile development, you definitely want to tune into all 3 of those shows. And then I also want to mention, I mentioned last week, but I just want to mention again that we're in the process of getting together 2 new sponsors who have kind of stepped up, Auth0, who we're excited to join in, who does creates a set of security as a service tools, and ThoughtRam, who does consulting for Angular 2 projects and training. So we'll have a lot more on them in the coming weeks. And that's it for announcements. So let's get to picks. Dimitri, why don't you start off?
So my picks for last week, maybe here, I'm not sure. So my favorite pick for now will be Neo4j, actually, for its graph-oriented and cyber stuff, and more of that, it has completely interested idea to move from their specific language of Cypher to open graph language, because currently in graph databases the world, it's pretty hard to just jump into the stuff. So I will not. It's kind of really interesting. So it'll be the only one for now, really.
Okay, great. For my pick this week, I just have one pick, and that is Angular Connect. They are soliciting for call for papers if you want to be a speaker, and selling tickets. Angular Connect, I went and spoke at the conference last year, and it was one of my favorite conferences of all time. Just really well run. You're in London, and a lot of great things to do there, and I just really enjoyed it. So if you, especially if you're in Europe, but even if you are on the East Coast and want to fly out there, I would highly recommend you going to angularconnect.com, checking it out. All right, Yuri, what about your picks?
Okay, so I'll make one like a professional one. So I've talked a little bit about that, but I think everyone should check out. It's called the Apollo stack. It's the new data stack for Meteor that's based on GraphQL and Relay. I think the best place to go to see it, just go to the Meteor blog. There's a blog called Reactive GraphQL, and that's it. Like, just you can use it in any application. So whatever you want, whether you want to use Meteor or not, you should check this out. And then the other picks are more personal. I used to be a guitar teacher, and I'm a guitar player. And yesterday I went to a show of my favorite guitar player, his name is Guthrie Govan. So if anyone here is a guitar player, you should really check out Guthrie Govan. He's like the best guitar player and a really cool guy. And the other thing that I want to recommend is the bag. I don't have a house. I'm in kind of a nomad, and I have a bag called Cotton Coil. It's a French brand. I have it for 2.5 years, and everything I own is inside that bag, and I really recommend it. It's an amazing bag. That's it.
Awesome. Yuri, thank you once again for joining
Thank
us.
you.
It's been a great show, and hopefully we'll meet up soon to chat.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much.
See
Bye.
everyone.